guys, hope you're doing well. So today I wanted to talk to you about the three different parts of our brain that has an impact on how we will react to things. Remember, I told you in a previous video that 95% of our behavior are automatic. So we don't even have to think about it. So the proof is that you came to work this morning and you didn't have, when you get into your car, you didn't have to think that, okay, now I have to take my key and then I have to use it and put it in there and then I have to press the pedal. You didn't have to think about all that. It was just automatic. You see, when we learn things at the beginning, we have to use another part of our brain, which I'm going to talk to you about in a second. But once that new learning become automatic, we just don't need to think about it. So basically, on a regular basis, even at work, even if we think, sometimes people will say, well, no, like I really have to think about what I'm doing every time. Maybe it feels this way, but unless you're in a job where you absolutely have to be really, really creative, or you have to really solve problems on a regular basis, you use a lot of your automatic mental server that I call that. Basically, our brain is like a computer. A computer that you buy on your at the store, when you buy it, it's completely empty, right? There's nothing in it. Well, when we are born, this is what happened: is our computer is completely empty, and then as soon as we have experiences, we hear things, we see things, and we experience emotionally situation and events, that our computer, the data, the information gets saved on our mental server, and it becomes habit, and it becomes pattern, and it becomes way of thinking, way of reacting, way of acting, way of behaving. So that's what we call the robot brain. The robot brain is the brain where all the data of all the experience, of all the memory, the past memory that you have, and you cannot control this server. It's just, you get like 400 billion bits of information per second. So it just gets in your brain all the time. And according to how you experience the situation, whatever it is, it can be a work experience, it can be a communication. You have an experience right now, whether it's good or it's bad, it's going to get registered in your brain, and you're going to want to repeat the situation, repeat the experience or not. So basically, the robot brain, it doesn't think. It's just collect data and give you back messages that you need in order to give you either the motivation or make you avoid the situation. Because the goal of your brain, of your unconscious brain, your robot brain, is to keep you safe. That's his role, to keep you safe. And in order to keep you safe, he has to avoid, make you avoid, or make you go away from certain situations so that you are safe. So, for example, if to go in a doctor's office, for example, or to go in your boss's office, or to answer the phone, or to just to talk in front of a camera, for example. If these experiences in your brain, it's associated as, it takes a lot of effort, it's difficult, or I'm going to be anxious, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not confident to do that, or it was a bad experience in the past. If this is the kind of information that you have in your robot brain, well, your brain will not give you the motivation, will not give you the energy or the drive that you need in order to do that. It will, on the contrary, it will make you avoid it. So that's the reason why we are so resistant to change. That's the reason why it's so difficult to install a new habit. That's the reason why that we have the automatic response of a stress situation, of a anxiety situation, or a fearful situation. It's automatic, okay? We don't have to think about that. Thank God that we do have another part of our brain, which I call the sage. It's the part that we use when we need to think about something, when we need to analyze something, when we need to observe, when we need to rationalize, okay, to make sense of all this. We have to use this part of our brain in order to make different choices, make different decisions, on top of what our subconscious mind or a robot brain would give us as information. So that's when, in a situation where you're really stressed, you do it anyway. That's why in a situation where you feel anxious, you do it anyway. That's where in a situation where it's really conflictual, you have an idea or you have a different way of presenting an information, of relating to the person, and then so this new way of thinking, or this new action, it's your sage. It's because you thought about it, because you thought that, well, maybe it's going to be better if I do this instead of this. So you take control. That's what we would call it, taking control of our brain, taking control of ourself, taking control of our emotion and our habitual pattern. There's another part of our brain that I call the puppy brain. A puppy, a small puppy, what does it do, a puppy? It wants to play all the time, right? And it gets anxious when somebody knocks at the door, or they hear a noise that they're not used to, so they get all excited, or they get all fearful, and they bark, and then they move all around. So that part of our brain, it's our emotional brain. That's the part where it's spontaneous. That's what makes us impulsive at some point. So this part is not in control all the time, but sometimes the way our puppy brain reacts becomes a habit, becomes a pattern, and then it gets stored in our robot brain. So why do I tell you all that? Like, what does it have to do with work? Everything. Because when we see ourselves resisting to change, there's a reason why. And that's what I tell, that's what I say to people. It's normal. It's normal that people resist to change. It's because the robot brain, your unconscious brain, in front of this situation that is a change, have either a negative experience or a past experience that is not as positive as it's presented, or there's fear associated to that change, a fear of not being able to deliver what is expected, a fear of not being good enough, a fear of not being able to do it the way it's asked, and any type of emotion, negative emotion associated to what the change that is presented. Obviously your brain will try to pull you away from that change. So it is normal. That's the reason why I'm going to teach a lot of strategies because changes is important. Anyway, everything change around us. So it is something that I'm going to talk in more details a little bit later. But I wanted to explain to you the reason why we act a certain way, the reason why we have a tendency to avoid certain situations, the reason why we have difficulty to maybe talk about certain things, the reason why that we are impulsive in front of certain situations. it's because of our different part of brains. And the only one, or the only time that we take control is when we activate the prefrontal cortex, which is the conscious brain, the part of our brain where we take a moment, we breathe, we analyze it, we rationalize it, and we think, does that make sense? Is that what I want? Is that the emotion that I want to live? Is that, do I want to continue this way? The pattern, the automatic behavior that I have, the automatic reaction that I have, is it something that I want to change? Because this part, by suggestion or by orders, will make new data in our subconscious mind. So that's the reason why we'll use, I'm going to use very often, we need to change the phrase that you tell yourself, or we need to change the word that you tell yourself. We need to change the different way of saying, because the way you talk to yourself, or the way you talk to a person, you reinforce the behavior that you don't want to. It's just like if I tell you, don't think of a black cat, what comes to your mind? A black cat. Because our brain works by image and word, and we associate the image and the word and what it means to us. So understanding our brain is really, really important, and I come back to that all the time. When I'll tell a person, the reason why we make these mistakes is because we did it just mechanically. We didn't think, we didn't focus, we just did it mechanically. Just unpacking boxes or packing boxes. A person will do that, will pack, unpack, will talk at the same time. There's no concentration. It's easy, I know how to do that. It's not a problem. It's mechanical now. But can we forget things in the box when we do it mechanically? Absolutely. So I come back to the part of our brains that was at work at that particular moment, and that's the reason why. So that's the reason why I will usually tell people we have to focus, we have to use this part of our brain, which is the conscious brain, which is the part that makes us think, makes us stop, makes us rationalize, makes us create objective or have a vision, or makes us want something, and makes us change some other part of our brain, the way we think, the way we react, the way we feel. So that's the part that can be in charge, that we can control the way we feel on a regular basis through this part. But we have to activate it a little bit more than just getting our robot brain taking control 95% of the time. Does that make sense? So that was my little video on how our brain works, and it's the basic, it's the fundamental of everything we do in our life, and why we react, and why sometimes it's so difficult just to be at peace, just to be happy with ourselves, or just to feel good. So I'll see you next time on the next video.